Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Comon from Paul's Photo and the Creative Photo Academy. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight, discussing the amazing Nikon Z cameras on Safari and the history of my photography in Safari. It's been awesome. I want to introduce to you, he's below me on the Zoom screen. I don't know where he is for you. So Maurice Okech from Simba Marara Expeditions. We have been partners in Africa for 12, 14 years. You know, the last, oh my gosh, dozen safaris I've been on have been through and with Maurice. It's been an awesome experience. Say hi, everybody, to Maurice.
Hello everyone, and Mark, thank you for the good introduction. And yes, and this morning we were at the Kenyan consulate putting out the images, and it has brightened up the consulate. They are happy to see the images, they're excited, and we hope that whoever is in Los Angeles tomorrow and Saturday will be able to come and see the gallery, enjoy some wine and some cheese.
Awesome. It's going to be a great afternoon from 2 to 7, Friday and Saturday at the Kenyan consulate. It's in Koreatown, 3550 Wilshire Boulevard on the 19th floor. And there's parking right behind, so it's easy, super simple. Thanks, Brian, for coming. You know, just be prepared to fall in love and get ready to go to Africa, because it's going to inspire you. I want to introduce to you also next door to my, whatever side this is on Zoom, is Karen. Say hi, Karen.
Hi.
So Karen is one of our advanced students at the Creative Photo Academy. She just had her first safari experience in July. What'd you think, Karen?
Oh my God, it was amazing. I'm still smiling, okay?
And what camera did you take to Africa, Karen?
I took the Z9 and the Z7ii.
Awesome. Yeah, Karen's going to be part of our Nikon Z9 month. So in November, starting on the 9th of November, we're going to have 4 lectures by Paul Van Allen on the Nikon Z9 with tips and tricks and all that. The 5th lecture is not going to be a lecture, it's going to be a roundtable. Karen is going to be part of that roundtable with a couple of other photographers, our Nikon rep, and we're just going to discuss the merits and answer questions and share pictures. So we've got a lot to go through tonight. I'm going to try to answer your questions and inspire you. Please type your questions into the chat. Maurice will answer the safari questions and Karen will answer the camera questions she can, and both of them will forward questions on to me. So
can I say one thing, Mark?
Pardon me?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for Maurice. I used my blanket last night because I was cold.
Thank you so much for doing that. I love that.
It was cold here in LA. It's cold. Those who are around the country, you know, it's like 55 degrees here in LA. And we are, I know Karen from West Virginia, this is like summer weather for you, but you're dying, right?
I was cold last night. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So you guys ready? All right. So are there any questions are there any questions I need to know about, Karen, before we get started here? Anybody? Karen, questions?
Sorry, I turned off my mic. No, everything's good.
All right, so I want to welcome you to Nikon Z in Africa. I want to welcome you who are new to our Paul's Photo Creative Photo Academy creative community. We have an awesome time. You know, we certainly live by our core values of customer service, community, and sustainable business here at Paul's Photo. We try to be the best camera store there is in the world. I know there's a lot of competition in a lot of places to buy a camera and to take a photo class or a tour, but we want to be the best place to do that. And we bend over backwards to help you, to serve you, to make it right for you. Please follow us on social media. I'm going to send you some links tomorrow so you don't have to take all this down. I'm going to send you the recording of this class and our Africa preview class that we did on Tuesday night, plus my packing videos, all that. You'll get all that on tomorrow, God willing, if we have the time to get that over to you. So my name is Mark. I'm the owner here at Paul's Photo. I've been working here at Paul's Photos every day since 1974. And my goal here tonight is to inform you, to inspire you, to get you excited, to get out and make pictures, to use your Nikon Z camera or Canon or Sony camera to its fullest and learn a little bit from my mistakes. And God, everybody, I have made a ton of mistakes, and I want you to learn from that. Because when we go on safari, it is a baptism of fire. You are out of the pan and out of the fire and into the frying pan. And we have so much fun. So you can see Jane and Evelyn and Chuck there with a lion right by the car. You get to see the elephants right up close, the lions doing amazing things. You get lucky and you get a leopard in a tree or a leopard in a bush right next to you. And you've got to be prepared to make that amazing picture. You know, when you sign up and come on safari with us, we'll help you prepare ahead of time. Tonight is to think about our camera techniques, to get the images that we want, to get the power of our photographs to tell a story. And we're going to do that by using the camera technology, because the new camera technology, gang, is amazing. It's powerful, it's wonderful, it's fantastic. And when I was on safari this summer in July, hey, there's Karen right there. There you are, Karen.
Yeah.
Right there at the top of the vehicle, right?
There I am.
There you are, right?
My buddy.
Yep. You know, when I was on safari shooting with Z7ii and Z9 and Z7, I was amazed at the power of the images I was capturing. I was amazed at how easy it was to make the best pictures of my life. And I didn't really know they were the best pictures of my life. I was getting a little peek here and there every day. But when I got home and started to print the images, I saw just how fantastic and razor sharp and beautiful they are. You know, and I showed a bunch of pictures to my wife's friends at one of her dinner parties, and they all commented to me, Mark, how clear these pictures are. They had never seen pictures that looked like the 11x14 prints that I brought to share with them. You know, and the experiences that we had in July and the way the cameras performed were absolutely stunning. They were phenomenal. They were amazing. And that's why I wanted to share them with you tonight, to inspire you, to help you, to educate you so that you can get these kinds of pictures. So what was it with the Nikon Z? And for you Canon people, the R5, the R6, and the R3 are going to be the same. For you Sony people, the A1, the A9 II, the A7 IV, A7 V, A4, A7 IV, A7 R4 Sonys. You guys are going to have similar advantages. So what is the advantage to me? And Karen and Maurice, if you guys want to chime in on any of this stuff, let me know. So
Sure.
One, focus tracking and accuracy. Using the face control, eye control focus to be able to have it lock in on the bird, right on the eyeball of the bird, was phenomenal. Now, it's not foolproof. It's not flawless. You still have to move the box into the area of the face, but it's amazing. It's amazing. Hold on a second, guys.
Mark, let me chime in on the sharpness and the bird that we hang at the consulate. And you saw how when the person saw it and was in awe of how sharp it was.
Yeah.
It was beautiful colors.
Yeah, so I've got 24x36 prints up at the Kenyan consulate for you guys to come see. For the focus tracking and accuracy, and we'll talk about that all night. High ISO performance. And I know a lot of you have hair color out there similar to mine, and you grew up at film where you shot with 100 ISO, and maybe you would go and buy a roll of 400 ISO, but never any higher than that. Gang, those days are done. And with the Z7 II, the Z9, the Z6 II, I shoot routinely 6,400, 12,000, 25,000. You'll even see a couple of 51,000 ISOs tonight because it is amazing. And if you're not using the high ISO and not processing them properly in the computer, you're not going to get the results. And using a high shutter speed to me is imperative. Number 3, the Nikon matrix meter, when coupled with the autofocus technology, to me made flawless exposures. I didn't have very many images where I had to adjust exposure at all. Some of them I would add a plus a third or minus a third, minus 2/3 exposure compensation while shooting. But 99.9% of the time, I was in matrix metering, using the focus technology with adding just a little bit of exposure compensation to get it as desired. It was amazing. The dynamic range and color, oh my gosh. Shooting, we didn't have a lot of bright sunshine these trips, but when we did, it was amazing that we could capture the foreground, the background, the light and dark at the same time. And with a little bit of work in Photoshop, I could pull that out. And the color, I don't know, Karen and Maurice, if you guys agree with me, how amazing the color is on the Z cameras compared to the other cameras you've shot or I've shot.
No, Mark, and seeing it on print, that's when you understand how clear and crisp the colors are.
Yeah. And of course, Karen, what do you say there?
No, I definitely agree too. Definitely. And honestly, I almost think the Z9 colors are a little brighter. I don't know if it's some way I have my camera set or what. I need to look into that.
Yeah, but you can adjust that with the picture styles,
no.
right?
Yeah, it was no issue. I'm just saying there was a little bit of a difference. So.
And of course, for me, who's been photographing a long time, I always carry a big bag, a bag bigger than most of you are willing to carry, but none of us is getting any younger. We all want to carry less camera gear to shoot with the Z, and to see my camera bag reduced in weight about 35% from this trip versus my last trip was a godsend. To be able to have better picture quality with smaller, lighter gear. How cool is that? Now, if you guys are coming up from crop sensor cameras, if you're coming up from Nikon D3500s and Canon Rebels, the Nikon Z, the Canon R5, R6, the Sony A1 are going to be bigger and heavier cameras than those. But if you're coming from Canon 5D Mark IV or Nikon D850 or Nikon D5, it's a fraction. And the other thing I want to say is, gang, we did not have one broken or damaged Nikon Z camera. Am I right about that, Karen? Did anybody break a camera on the trip?
No, no one broke a camera at all.
Yeah, and that's the first time that's ever happened. And that's because the group was about 90% mirrorless. The Nikon Z6, Z7, Z9 cameras are pro quality bodies. They're robust. The S-line Z lenses are robust. They're weatherproof. They're weather sealed. So it eliminates a lot of the problems. Now, I'm still going to bring 3 bodies to Africa, but in the past, people have broken cameras, and if they only had 1 body, they were borrowing, or if they had 2 bodies, they were down to 1, and that didn't happen on this trip. It was amazing. Karen, any questions?
No, there's no questions.
So what cameras, what Nikon cameras were on the trip? So Lisa, there was 2 or 3 people with Z5s, and Lisa may have gotten the best photo of anyone on the trip with the Z5 and the 24-200 lens.
She got an amazing photo.
She got an amazing photo, didn't she? Yeah.
We were all jealous.
Yes. So there were Z6s and Z7s and Z6 and Z7 and Z9s and Sony A1s and Canon R5s and Canon R6s and Sony A7 IIIs on the trip. The lenses, the Nikon lenses that were prevalent were the 500 PF either on F-mount bodies or with the FTZ adapter. Still a very popular lens because of the size and weight of it. And of course, the 100 to 400 Z. The 400 4.5 wasn't available yet. And I was the only one on the trip with the 400 2.8 and a lot of the 1.4 and 2X extenders on the trip. So you need gear. Now, if you want to go to Africa and you just want to bring a pocket camera or an iPhone, you are welcome to do that. No one is ever turned away. But if you want great pictures, you need great gear. Isn't that a great picture, Karen?
Yeah, it kind of took me by surprise.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But you need cameras and lenses. You need the gear. And so you have to ask, and I'm always willing to talk to you about this. What's your camera and what's your big lens? So this is me on my first safari to Africa. I have a Nikon D2X and a 300 millimeter 2.8. Now, I'll tell you the story of my first trip to Africa. I had that outfit on our first day of safari. I broke it. I was riding in the Jeep, not holding onto it. We went over a bump. The camera came up, hit the bottom of the roll bar, cracked the titanium top cover of the Nikon D2X, bent the frame of the 300 2.8 lens. But to Nikon's credit, it worked the entire trip and made fantastic pictures. Now, I couldn't take the lens off. The lens was permanently attached to the camera, but I got amazing pictures from a broken Nikon camera on my first trip to Africa. So over the years, I started out with the D2X and the second camera was a D200. Now those are 12 megapixel cameras, D3S, D810. And with that kit, it was 24 to 70, 70 to 200, 300 millimeter 2.8, and a 1.4 extender. Then I went to the D850. And when I went to the D850, I wanted higher resolution and I wanted to get a little closer. So I switched my telephoto lens to the 400 millimeter 2.8. So I had the FL 400 2.8 when I got the D850. I took my first mirrorless trip to Africa with the Z7, and that went with the 400. And so did my trip with the Z7ii. That went with, so the Z7 trip was the 24 to 70 f4. And then all of the other lenses were F-mount lenses with the FTZ adapter. On the Z7 trip, that was 24 to 70 2.8, 70 to 200 2.8 Z lens. The 400 and the 1.4 were F-mount with the FTZ adapter. On my last trip, the trip in July, this is what I took. So this is the Mindshift First Light 40. It is what we call in the business an Air Max bag. So it is the largest legal carry-on. So you can't take a bigger bag on a plane. You don't want to carry a bigger bag. But in this bag, this is what I had. I had the Z7 converted to infrared. We'll talk about that in a minute. My second camera was the Z7ii, and my primary camera was the Z9. And so finally, I get to go to Africa with all the native Z lenses, 24 to 70 2.8, 24 70 to 200, 400 2.8, the new Z400 TC lens with the built-in teleconverter was amazing, and a extra 1.4 converter and a pair of Nikon 10 by 30 binoculars. Are there any questions about what's in the bag?
Mark, the question was, at minimum, you recommend 2 bodies, and why do you recommend 2 bodies at minimum on safari?
I recommend 2 bodies on safari because camera 1 always has the big lens. Camera 2 has your second lens, and that depends on what you want your second picture to be. So whether it's a 24 to 70 to do scenery or a 70 to 200 to do not quite as close. So think about it, Maurice, you'll see a lot of pictures that are very tight on the animals. That's with the 400 lens on my camera number 1, which in this trip was the Z9. Camera 2, the Z7ii, had either the 70 to 200 or 24 to 70 lens on it, depending on what I saw as the second picture that I wanted to take. So you're by the Pride of Lions, you've got the 400 lens, you're right in close on the lions, but now I want a picture of all 8 lions. I don't want to have to change lenses. It takes too much time. There's too much risk of damage and dropping. So I just put the 400 down. I grab the 70 to 200 and bring that on the second camera and make my pictures with the second camera. Did that answer the question?
I think it did, Mark. Thank you.
Anybody, any other questions?
Yeah, Brian wanted to know if you think a 14 to 24 would be worthwhile to take for landscapes.
I don't think so. You know, the 24 was plenty wide enough. The only thing that I missed is, you know, when we visit, if we visit the natives, you know, 24 is not quite wide enough to get the inside of their boma. 14 is not wide enough. I mean, 24 is not wide enough if you wanted to do like a sky shot at night. But I've never brought an ultra wide lens to Africa, and I've never missed it, honestly. I see more questions coming into the chat,
Yes.
but I can't. What are they?
Oh, one question, Mark, is what made you not take the 100-400 on Safari, the zoom lens?
I like the 2.8 aperture. I like the sharpness. I like the performance of the 400 2.8. And so you'll see, so this is shot with, this is shot on Z7 with the 400 2.8 FL with the 1.4 extender at f 2.8. And look at the background. You're not gonna get that background with an f 5.6 lens. It's just not gonna happen, gang. I want the focus performance, I want the speed, I want that beautiful out of focus background. You know, any other questions, guys?
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
Jim,
Let's
go ahead, Maurice.
No, go ahead. No, have none. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Jim wanted to know what the weight limitation was and how much did your bag weigh?
So my bag weighs about 32 pounds. And so Maurice and I work hard to make Africa doable. I couldn't go to Africa with a 33-pound weight limit like most people do. So Maurice and I ask you to skinny down on your clothes, bring 20 to 25 pounds worth of clothes, and then your camera bag, and we make arrangements for it.
Yeah.
You know, we've never had a problem. You know, my joke the first time we went was we had the 33-pound weight limit. My joke to the group was, I'm going to bring my camera bag and 2 loincloths, and that's it. Because I want to bring all my camera stuff. So, you know, we work hard. Maurice and I work hard to make this work. And one of the things we've done is worked with our partners at Private Safari to customize the vehicles, to make specialized vehicles. And with our partner Oscar at Private Safaris, you know, they adjust the vehicles for us. So they take out a row of seats, so we have more room to move around. There's only 4 photographers in a vehicle designed for 9. And we have a high and low shooting position. So you can see here 2 photographers shooting out of the windows and 1 photographer shooting out the top. Now you can't put all 4 photographers out the windows on one side, but you can put all 4 photographers out the roof on one side. And to me, I mean, this is magic. It's pure magic in how we get to photograph and our relationship with the animals this way. Would you agree, Karen?
Definitely. I was in the front with Lisa and we just switched places. We just took turns. It was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And Mark, for the Mark, for the vehicles as well. So we do have newly customized vehicles where the side just roll up, and we don't have windows anymore. And the top, we don't have the hatch coming up. We roll it back as well. And we also have a side one that goes where you can lay on it and take pictures from there. So we have newer, better improved vehicles going forward.
Oh, I can't wait for our next safari. So all these things, they change, you know, they get better,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, yes,
Mark,
Karen.
There's a lot more questions. Do you want them?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. As far as your high ISO, were you shooting in manual?
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Okay. And about getting dirt in the mirrorless sensors when changing lenses?
Did you have any problem with that, Karen?
I had no problem with a Z7 or the 9. And
Neither did
I
I.
just
You
kept the
just have to be
camera
careful.
down. Yeah, I just kept the camera down when I changed the lens.
And you know, I clean my camera. You know, I just use the blower and blower it out every day or two, and I didn't have any problems. You just have to be careful, guys. You can't be changing lenses in a dust storm, but you can. It works. It's proven. We do it.
And then Rob asked about an awkward angle of looking down on the animals. I didn't have any issues.
And there, Rob, there's no pictures. It's really cool when the cheetahs and the lions come sit underneath the car in the shade. It's really fun, but there's no picture there because you're looking straight down on them. And it's like you're looking down on your cat sitting at your feet, you know, it's not a great angle. The great angle is farther away from the vehicle, you know, with a longer lens, and it works great. It works better that way.
And then,
So it's not an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Maurice, did you see the message from Ralph, Maurice, about
The one
there was
about which?
about the internal flight?
That's for Johannesburg. And yes, we have flights. If you want to go to Johannesburg, if you want to fly from Johannesburg to Mon, yes, we have. But today we're talking Kenya, but we can talk about Joburg and Mon travels. You can email me and we can address that for you.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Good job.
Maurice. I think that's
So
it.
we bring private safaris brings bean bags for everyone. And so if you have a reasonable size camera, you just use the provided bean bag. If you've got a big lens, if you've got a 400, a 500, an 800, a 600 prime, I recommend a little bit bigger bean bag. So I use the Lens Coat lens sack and the Walt Anderson ground pod. If you guys watch my videos, so go to my Facebook page, go to my YouTube channel, you can see, I mean, so it's Mark Comon YouTube, Mark Comon Instagram and Facebook, and you can go back to July and August, and I posted a video every day. Or you can go to the Paul's Photo YouTube channel. Most of them from Africa got posted. YouTube doesn't like it when you're on slow connections, and some of them just kind of got lost in the ether. But I posted a lot of times. So here I am. This is right from one of the videos. You can see I've got the Z9 with the 400 2.8 on the top of the vehicle with the lens lens sack on there. And across the lens sack, there is a strap. There's a little Fastex buckled strap. And I buckle that through the Walt Anderson ground pod. And that allows me with the 400 2.8 to rock up and down and to swivel left and right to follow the birds, to follow the cheetahs, to follow everything. Now, if you've got a 100 to 400 or something like that, you don't need to worry about that. You know, because that's a small enough lens, so you can pick it up and hand hold it. You can, the beanbag will do it for you. It's the regular beanbag will do it for you. So I've learned that this was a trick I learned from a big name National Geographic photographer. I've been doing it ever since I converted to the 400 2.8, 10 or so years ago, and it's really worked well for me. So if you've got one of the big lenses, 400, 500, 600 prime, then you should think about getting a big beanbag and the ground pod. Now, the problem is that you need to make an arrangement. You can't fly to Africa with a beanbag, not full at least. So I go empty. I arrange with our tour. Maurice will arrange for you to get beans or rice on the other end. We fill it up. It costs you $5 or $10 to buy a bag of rice or a bag of beans. And then you put that back in a sack and give it to one of the guides, and they eat it for dinner that night. So any questions about that, Karen?
Oh, there's a good question that came up, Mark. Someone says, are we allowed to jump out of the vehicle set up a tripod, and be at the eye level of the animals. And I said, yes, if you do that,
Absolutely, yes. You can do that one time. And then we will see what you look like when the lion has you for lunch.
Yes, no,
No.
you cannot do that.
No, you cannot. You're not allowed to get out of the vehicle. There's no tripods or monopods allowed. Yeah, no.
Mark,
Yes, Karen.
Terrence said, can you mount a gimbal on the rail?
You can, but that's an awful lot of weight to be bringing, Terrence. And the problem is that a lot of times the vehicle is not level. So the drivers get us to the right position to photograph, and you need the ability to be able to, that's why I like a beanbag. It's very fluid. So I can take the beanbag, and if I want to go up, I put more beans in the front so the lens tips up. If I want to tip down, I may bring more beans to the back so it tips down. I can swivel. It's a lot more forgiving. I mean, I see a lot of guys with, the clamps and the arms and all that kind of stuff. I could never imagine photographing that way on some, it's too much rigmarole to deal with. Wouldn't you agree, Maurice?
No, I would. And unless if maybe you just want to come on your own trip and you want to have the whole rig done, then we can do that for you.
Yeah, we've done that. I've seen people out there with it. You
Yes.
see guys that have like two mounts, one on either side of the camp. The other thing is you're moving, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're on the right side because that's where the animal is. We're in the front, out the front, we're out the back, we're out the left. And, you're on a cheetah chase. They go from the right side of the vehicle to the left. Boom, you just pick up and move to the side. If you've got a gimbal strapped down, you're done. You've lost everything. So, Terrence, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. Mark, a question came up, I think we missed it here, on would you recommend, or is it heavy to bring the 300 2.8?
No, 300 2.8 is great. I just find that a 300 is not strong enough these days. I used the 300 when I was using a crop sensor camera as my primary camera. With a full frame camera, you need 400. So 400 to me is minimum. And remember, I'm using the Nikon 400 2.8 with a built-in 1.4 converter. That gives me 400 or 560. And then I can add a 1.4 converter to it to get to 800 if I want. So 400, 500, 600 is where most people find that they're happy. So Karen, you had the 100 to 400. How many times did you put the 1.4 converter on it?
I actually kept it on the whole time.
You kept it on the whole time.
Yes.
So you didn't do 100 to 400, you did 150 to 600.
Correct. Yes.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah, I never even took it off the lens.
Never took it off, right?
No.
So
Jack wants to know, would the 200 to 500 be too slow?
It's not. I mean, if that's what you can afford, that's great. I don't like the 5.6 aperture. I want to be able to open my aperture. So here, a couple of you asked me about my settings. For the animals, 99% of the time, I am in manual mode, 1/4000th of a second at f2.8 or 4 with the ISO on auto. Now, this doesn't work on all cameras. It works on the Z6, the Z7, the Z6 II, the Z7 II, the Z9, the D850, the D5, the D6 Nikons. It works on the Canon R5, R6, R3, except it has trouble doing exposure compensation, as does the Sony. So this technique is very limited on the cameras you can use it on, but I find it to be absolutely amazing and powerful. Because until this was available, I was an aperture priority. I still use aperture priority. So the Z7 II is on aperture priority at f4 or 5.6, ISO 400 or 800. And this is the camera that I use for landscape, scenery, general purpose photography. Please, gang, get your shutter speeds up. If you're shooting more with 24 megapixels, you can 1,000th of a second. If you're more than 24 megapixels, you need to be at a 2,000th or a 4,000th of a second. I'm in matrix metering in RAW. My white balance is generally in auto, but I will move it to sunny or cloudy as well to get the light the way that I want it. Questions, gang?
Yeah, I'm trying to go back to where we were. Terrence wanted to know if you did the 300 f2.8 and used the 1.4 or 2.0 teleconverter, would that work?
Sure, I mean, that's fine, because that gives you 420 or 600. Yeah, that works, if that's what you've got.
That's all we have, Mark, so far. I
Yeah,
think that's all the
that's-
questions we have.
All right,
That's it.
good.
Yep.
All right, okie doke. So do you guys got the settings? You guys need to take a screenshot, make a phone picture of this. You're gonna have the recording if you want to go back to it. So here, I mean, here's a screenshot of the back of my camera. And this is what it looks like. So I've got the wide area large autofocus. I'm at a 4,000th of a second at f4 with ISO on auto. And this is in my living room last night, so it was dark, it was underexposed. I wouldn't take a picture here, but this is the setting. This is what my I menu looks like. This is how I have customized my I menu. So this is the picture controls, focus peaking, ISO, light metering, autofocus C, AFC, continuous autofocus. Canon, Nikon, Sony people, every single picture you should make in Africa is on continuous autofocus. We'll talk about my focus settings on the Nikon in a second. My white balance is auto with the natural light limiter put on, sports stabilizer, airplane mode, plus minus exposure compensation, time lapse, and pre-release mode enabled. So that's what my I menu looks like on the Z9. I have it almost identical to that on the Z7. There's some things I can't turn on the Z7 that you can turn on the Z9, but I try to make the menus look as close together as possible. And these are my focus settings. It's very complicated, my focus settings. I switch back and forth. Can you see the cursor, Karen?
Yes, we see it.
I switch back and forth the focus setting between wide area large and wide area small. Why? Because you need to have the bounding box to help the camera focus. Wide area small is a smaller area. Wide area large is a bigger area. And then on Safari, I either am in the animal detect mode or off. Never, ever in auto area detect. Never. Why? You're asking the camera to do too much. Another trick that I learned from Lindsay Silverman, he's going to be doing a class for us on the Z6, Z7, and the Z9 coming up, is I have my autofocus on button programmed to give me 3D metering, 3D focus as well. So that if wide area small doesn't work and wide area large doesn't work, I hit the AF on button and it goes to 3D. And between one of those three focus schemes with the animal eye detect turned on, I had focus every damn time. I never missed focus. Karen, did you miss focus at all with the Z9?
No, I used the animal eye detect like you did, and it was great.
It's flawless.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing, guys. Absolutely amazing.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Charles wanted to know why you leave the airplane mode on. There you go.
So airplane mode means the camera is not emitting any electronic signal. So it's to save my battery, and I'm not going to do Wi-Fi when we're on safari in Africa. Now, maybe when we're sitting at lunch, I will turn the Wi-Fi on and connect to my phone and look at my pictures. But other than that, I always have the airplane mode turned on.
See, I never turned mine on, and I never had an issue with the battery.
I'm old school that way though, Karen.
Yeah.
You know.
But maybe I'll have to pay more attention.
Well, but if you don't run out of batteries,
Yeah.
and the one thing I'll tell you guys, on the Z7 II and the Z9, I got half a day out of a Z7 II battery, and I got all day out of a Z9 battery. So I know, at lunchtime I changed the Z7. I never had to change the battery on the Z9 ever on the trip, and I shot, 2,500, 3,000 pictures sometimes on a day. Questions, Karen?
Yeah. How many batteries did you take?
So I took 2 Z9 batteries and I took 6 Z7 batteries because I had 2 cameras. I had the Z7 and the Z7 II both using the ENL15. So I took 6 and 2.
And then Jack asked about the Z6, but that would be the same as the Z7.
Right, it's same as the Z7. Yeah. Other questions?
Someone just asked, do you use the I button to switch between the different wide area modes, small and large?
Yes. Yep. I just hit the I button and then touch screen it to go back and forth.
You do not assign it to an FN button?
No, I'm not smart enough. I can't remember that.
Yeah, I do assign mine to an FN button.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I talked to some of the what I call them propeller heads. Is that a politically correct term to use for people? And they have, for each schema, they have the different banks and the different buttons. And I can't remember from time. I have my camera set up with one setup, and I make that work for almost everything. There are some times where I customize it, but not very often. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm half of one of those people you just described.
You mean you've got half a propeller, Karen?
Yeah. And then Jim asked, do you use?
Oh, wait, gang. I just want to say that no nerds were injured on the trip or doing this presentation. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, Jim wants to know if you use the lens control ring for exposure compensation.
I do not, because I bump that shit all the time and it goes crazy.
I had the same issue. I had to turn it off.
Yeah, I had it on for a while because I thought it was super cool, but no, it takes me down the wrong path. And I'm used to, on the Z9 and the Z7, and when I say Z7, guys, I mean Z7 II and Z7. The plus minus button is right here, and I just hit it and turn with my thumb wheel. It takes me no time at all, and I can do that with my eyes closed. So why is this important? If your animal is not in focus, you don't have a picture. And somebody was asking about high ISO. This one is at 12,800, by the way. 12,800 ISO. 400 2.8 at 2.8. Or here, using the face tracking, these 2 lionesses were interacting up and down this rock pile, and the face tracking just followed them. It was amazing. Now I've got wide area large autofocus, so there's a fairly big area for them to move around in, and as long as they were in that area, they were in focus. And I'll tell you, gang, unlike other brands, if the Nikon square is on your subject, it is in focus. And I have just even given up checking anymore. I used to, in Bridge or Lightroom, use the loop to go in and make sure it's no, they're all in sharp focus. They're in focus. You don't even have to worry about it. Now, if my shutter speed's squirrely and I can't hold the camera still, that's a different kettle of fish. Questions, Karen?
No, there's no
question.
And the tracking, oh my gosh. For those of you who are bird photographers, horse photographers, jumping dog photographers, sports photographers, if you're not using Z6 II, Z7 II, or Z9 with the face tracking focus, you are out of luck, baby, in my opinion. So I'm going to tell you the story of the lilac breasted roller. So this is a picture made with a Nikon Z7 II. And up until this safari, this was my best picture of my favorite bird in Africa. In 14 safaris to Africa, I have 4 flying pictures of the lilac-breasted roller in focus. Now, 4 pictures in 14 safaris, you know, I never care about my picture percentage, but that's pretty piss poor, wouldn't you think, Karen?
I don't want to make you feel bad, Mark, but all of mine were pretty much in focus.
Well, but this is in 14 safaris.
I know.
But on
You're
with
gonna
the
get
Z9,
there.
I got dozens and dozens of pictures of the roller flying in focus.
It was
And as
amazing.
Lindsay Silverman says, I hate Z9 because it makes my editing so tough. At 20 frames per second, I have 20 pictures in focus. It's amazing. From the bird sitting to the bird jumping to the bird flying, it's in focus. From the bird sitting to the bird jumping to the bird flying, it's in focus. Every single picture. As long as you keep the focusing square on the subject and you keep the lens, the bird in the frame, it's in focus. You don't have to think about it. It's in focus. It's magic. It's like cheating. I can't say it strong enough. And look at this of a skimmer, how cool that is, right? And at a 4,000th of a second, look at the water as he's skimming or she's skimming along. There's got to be some questions, Karen.
Actually, there aren't any questions.
Oh, I made everyone, they're all dumbfounded, aren't they?
No, you know, Mark, when the first day in Africa, I think I was so excited. I think I shot like 3,000, 4,000 pictures. And then I had to go through them all. And then the next days I went down. I shot a lot less. But,
So you were
wait,
machine gunning on
Eric-
day one.
Eric says here. Any tips you can offer on processing very high ISO photos in Lightroom? And I can tell you,
no, because I don't do Lightroom. Karen, you got to talk to him about Lightroom.
I don't do that high ISO in Lightroom. I use Topaz denoise.
Okay, great.
So that would be my suggestion.
So the other software to use, guys, is try Nikon NX Studio.
Yeah.
I've had pretty good luck there with it. So I'm a bridge and Photoshop person. Karen is a Lightroom person. I don't know what you do, Maurice. But
Mark, I use DxO. DxO has a good software for denoising as well.
Yeah,
So I do
yeah.
use
So
DxO
everybody
as
has
well.
their own.
Yes.
And you'll see some of my high ISOs coming up in a minute, guys. So I see questions flashing. Is there any questions I need to deal with, guys?
No, people are
No,
just
no
commenting.
questions. People
All
are
right,
commenting on
commenting,
the
great.
high level of ISO.
Perfect.
Yes.
So in 14 safaris to Africa, I have 0 pictures of flamingos flying in a pack, in a flock. Every other camera, you would pan across on these flamingos flying, the camera would try to focus and finally give up and just go on the background. Z9, it's stunning. It's amazing. So this is with the 400 2.8, 400 millimeters. Craig, you were standing right next to me when I shot this one. 400 f4, panning as the flamingos are flying across. It was amazing. And I got maybe 50 or 60 of them in focus. So how do you pick? I liked this one because I can see the eyes on most of the individuals. Most of the wings are down, so it has a nice pattern. And I really like the out of focus flamingos underneath them. And I like the background. So that's how I chose. You know, and of those 75 shots, I kept 2. I threw the rest of them all away. So the technology gang is here to help you. It's here to make this stuff rock for you. Questions, guys? I see the chat is bouncing. So we have questions, or are we good?
Teresa wanted to know about the burst rate.
I'm at 20 frames per second. And so I throttle back and forth between 20 and 10, depending on what we're doing. So when I'm on animals, I'm on 10. When we do birds or something like this, or if we're on a lion hunt or a cheetah hunt, I switch to 20. And I just do that on the top dial. I have the, so I have the low and the high. I have low set to 5. I go between 5 and 20. Low is set to 5 frames per second. High is to 20. And I just toggle between 5 and 20 back and forth. But when you're going 20 frames per second, that's when you're going to be like Karen and shoot 4,000 pictures in a day. And there's no problem with that if you've got enough memory cards. You just have to be able to delete them, or else you're going to fill up your computer.
I only did
That
it
was
the
a question,
first
Mark.
day.
Actually, Mark, there was a question to that as well. Question came up: do you download to your computer every night, or do you
Every
merely
day.
bring enough chips? Yes.
So I will tell you, gang, in the safari we just did, 2 people did not download. 2 people had a problem on their camera that they didn't find out about until they got home.
Oh.
And that's because they weren't looking at their pictures every day. And you can't bring an iPad. You can bring a Chromebook or a MacBook Air if you want. I bring my 15-inch MacBook Pro and a 2 terabyte external SSD drive to make sure that I have enough storage. And I edit every night. And you know what? Isn't editing fun, Karen? Because we're sitting around the campfire with a beer,
Yes.
looking at pictures.
Yes, my mic was off. Sorry.
That's one of my favorite parts of the day, isn't it, Maurice?
Yes, Mark, it is. It's and Mark, do we also do the editing during after the morning drive, or just in the evening?
It's sometimes at lunchtime, but usually for lunchtime for me, that's time for a swim. I want to be outside, take a nap, whatever. And I do the editing after dark. For me, I have a hard time computer editing during the day.
So,
Yeah,
Mark, I didn't know we could do a swim. Do we have a swimming during safari as well? Bring us.
Oh, sure, because when the crocodiles are on the beach, we just go right into the. No, most of the lodges have a swimming pool, and you bring a swimsuit, and you go out and you lay by the pool, and you can order cocktails by the pool if you want.
Yes, and it's fun.
It's fun.
What was nice on our trip too is everyone shared their photos in the evenings. We all shared our photos with each other, which was really
It was
nice.
great, wasn't it, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah, we were airdropping like fiends, right?
Yes. There's some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure what photo he's talking about, but Sheldon wanted to know, why did you shoot at 1/4000 manual rather than shutter priority?
Because in shutter priority, you can't make sure your exposure is right. I'm in manual 4,000th of a second, choosing my aperture to get the background in focus that I want, and then auto ISO.
Okay, and then
So I want to lock in the shutter speed and f-stop that I want and let the ISO float.
Oh, nice.
um,
Mark, what was your experience with Wi-Fi at the lodges? And if you're able to upload to your iCloud?
Slow. Oh, you can't go to iCloud, no way.
Yes, okay.
You can't go to iCloud. So you could barely, Karen, would you agree with me? We could barely upload a photo or a video to Facebook or Instagram. So
Yeah,
iCloud, no way.
yeah, it depended on the time of day and what was happening.
Yeah.
Jim's asking, did we capture raw and JPEG to show every night? But we use SnapBridge, most of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I use RAW and then use Nikon SnapBridge connected to the phone,
Yeah.
and then push the pictures around, right? And so the eye tracking focus is not just for the birds. So this is using the face tracking autofocus, and there's no way I would have gotten this picture with a camera other than the Z9. Because the way the cheetah jumped out of the middle of the picture, the camera tracked her focus as she left the center of the picture and followed her eye and face. It was amazing. The face tracking focus on the Z9 followed these cheetahs as they were walking through the grass. It was amazing. There's no way I could do it without. The Z9 focused here, and I had to manually focus because there was no clear face. I mean, not manually focus. I had to put the focus dot right here on the mom. This is a mother and 3 young cheetahs. These are the same cheetahs, you know, a series of 3 here. And I love this one in the dust. I printed it light. You'll see it up. It's up at the Kenyan consulate if you want to come up there. 24 by 36, and it is tack sharp, gang. Tack sharp.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yes, Karen.
Yeah, that was Brian wanted to know why you did not use back button focus for action photos.
I don't like back button focus. I like the I want the focusing to be tracking more. So I have my focus active on the shutter release, and I'm using my thumb to move the focusing point around. So you can't move the focusing point and do back button focus at the same time. I'm more interested in moving my focusing point and having the focus be active. On an SLR camera, on the D850, the D5, the D6, I was using back button focus all the time. But on the Z7 and the Z9, I never use, or I use back button focus to activate the 3D focus, but I don't use it to turn focus on and off because I'm never locking focus on the Z7. I want the focus to track. And the more you have the focus on, the better the tracking is, in my opinion.
Yeah, nice.
Mark?
And Mark, at what time in the morning do we get started to on safari?
Sunrise. What time do we finish? Sunset. We take a break in the middle of the day when the light's bad, and it's awesome. And you know, for those, go ahead, Karen.
No, I was gonna say we were usually out around by 6:30 for sure.
Yeah,
Right?
6:30, 6:45. We're out. We're back 9:30, 10, 10:30. Breakfast, you know, rest, lunch. Back out on safari 3, 3:30, 4, depending on where we are, and then back at 6:30 after sunset. Sometimes 7. We were out a couple times till 7:30, huh? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Mark, also Rob wanted to know, do you use erratic or steady?
I use erratic.
Okay. Me too.
So that's on the Nikon, on the Z9, erratic case for focus. So that's telling the camera to expect the subject to be moving. So if I was photographing NASCAR racing, if I was photographing, you know, 100-meter dash track and field, I would be on static, which means the subject is going to come at you in a straight line. It's not going to veer off course. All my stuff, whether it's the animals like here, the elephants, or sporting events like baseball or football or soccer, people are moving randomly. So there is no, you can't tell the camera to predict the autofocus. So I use 2 cameras. I use my Z7 II a lot. And one of the things I do with the Z7 II is make videos. And that's why it always has a lens on it. In this case, it had the 24-70 lens on it. And this is at about 35 with the 24-70 on the Z7 II. And because it had a lens on it, I was able to make this video. So I do it in auto. When I'm doing video, I'm in green auto. Just put the video on, hit the button, let the camera go. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Is this a cool video? What do you think, guys?
Oh, it's beautiful. No, it's totally beautiful. Look at the details. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
I love the shadows.
Yeah. Having a second camera like the Z7 II allows you to switch from the 400 in right on close to now the 70 to 200 at about 150 or 180 to get the family of flamingos and what the lake looks like full of flamingos, or the elephants with the mountain in the background. I didn't want just the elephant. I wanted to see all 3 elephants, the whole family. So by having a second camera right with me with the 70-200, now this camera most of the time is in aperture priority at f5.6, ISO 400, maybe f8. And I'm adjusting the aperture and aperture priority because this is not my action camera. This is more of a scenery camera. So I'm taking, sure, these elephants are walking, but this is not super fast action. I'm not at 10 frames per second. I'm at 5 frames per second. And I'm going click, 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 click with the second camera. We do find some beautiful landscapes along the way. Z7, 24-70, 24-70 on the Z7 II when we go into the village and we meet the people. Aperture priority, this case f2.8, put the focus right on his face, go. Inside one of the Maasai bomas, right? So this is ISO 6400 f2.8, and I focus on the father and the son. Or the Maasai warrior. So this is the Z7 II with the 70-200 f2.8 to take the background out. I love that out of focus background look. I love the control it gives me. I use the second camera for the sunset, the sunrise, the scenery, the clouds, the trees, all those kinds of beautiful things that we see on safari that is not an animal with a 400. Or here at sunset in Amboseli with the 70-200. I use the Z7 II for scenery, but Terrence, I also use a Z7 that has been converted to infrared for scenery. Now, I tried a lot of infrared on this trip and it was moderately successful because we didn't have a lot of sunshine. But we did get some sunshine and it was amazing. I love infrared. I love the power of infrared. Mainly for me though, it's scenic and people photography that I like, that I'm drawn to with the infrared. Some of them I convert to black and white. Some of them I use the white balance that I have set in the camera to capture the feeling that I want, that give this sepia toned look. This special kind of feeling from the infrared. So for those of you who don't know, this is a Nikon Z7 where I have taken the low pass filter out of it and added a 720 nanometer cutoff filter. I will be having a workshop in mid 2023, a weekend 3-day workshop on infrared photography if you're interested. This may be one of my favorite or the favorite photo from the safari. So this was on our village visit in the Masai Mara. Everyone else was in with the village, hearing the village thing. And I heard the Ngoro, Goro, 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 Goro coming, which means here come the cattle. So I left the little meeting, jumped out onto the road, and here came by the Maasai driving their cattle. And I don't know where they were going, but it didn't matter. I think it's a pretty dang cool picture. Any questions, Karen?
Yeah, Mark, there's a question. It was back a little ways.
Sure.
When you're using your back button focus to activate the 3D,
Mm-hmm.
do you need to hold the button in while you are shooting? You do, right?
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And I think that's it. Teresa.
So I love the infrared for the people. Go ahead.
No, Teresa wanted to know if you recommend taking the 24-70 over the 24-120, and I told her yes if the 24-70 is f2.8. Was that correct?
It depends. So if I'm going to be planning a lot of infrared, I really love the 24-120 now for infrared.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what she meant then.
Yeah, I think that's probably what she was, because she has an infrared camera and she's always concerned about that. The 24-70 2.8 gets a hot spot on a lot of images.
And what frame rate do you shoot your videos at?
I'm at 4K 30.
30.
So 2160 30.
Thank you. That's it.
So picture on the left is straight out of camera. picture on the right is converted to black and white using NIKON silver effects. You know, it's all about the light and the subject, and this is why I carry that third camera, the infrared, because it gives me a unique feeling. It gives me something that's different from what everybody else shoots. And I just have a passion for the infrared photography. I love the way that it looks because it just looks different. And it's a picture, it's a unique picture that I can make in the middle of the day when regular color photography just sucks, you know, with the bright sunshine. You know, I can look for the great atmospheric in this one. That's what caused me to stop that crazy cloud there in the middle. Or here, the line of wildebeest with the clouds. Or here, the elephants coming across the plain with the dust devils in the background. All shot in infrared. So this is the same family of elephants that you saw the video on and the picture before, now shot with infrared with the 24 to, this is with the 24 to 120 at 24 millimeters. So whoever, who asked me about a wide angle, so this is at 24. That's, I mean, to me, I don't need much more wide angle than that on Safari. Questions, Karen?
Yeah, Craig wanted to know how much it costs to change a camera to infrared.
$400 plus $400 plus $50 shipping. The power of high ISO, guys. I can't say that enough. 6400 ISO early in the morning. 12,800 ISO at dusk time. Does that look like 12,800? I mean, to me it does, because I know what the new 12,800 looks like. So here, the chimps, and we were with the chimps and gorillas this time in Uganda. Amazing experience. 6400 ISO, because these chimps were out in the bright light. 70 to 200 at 1,000th at f2.8. Manual 1,000th at 2.8. ISO auto 6400. 12,800 when they moved into the shade. And even under this lighting conditions on a chimpanzee, black face with black eyes, the eye tracking focus worked. It was flawless. I love this one. Look at the humanity in this one. So this is with the 70 to 200. I'm 12,800 ISO, 70 to 200 at 200. And I'm about 4.5 or 5 feet away from the chimp. I had to scoot back to let the lens focus because I was closer than the minimum focus distance. 25,000 ISO. 25,000 ISO.
Yes, it's a win.
Isn't that amazing?
Unbelievable.
25,000 ISO. 6,400 ISO. 6,400 ISO. It's phenomenal. And if you don't have this level of camera, you're not going to get these pictures. If you haven't upgraded yet, you need to upgrade. You need to get control of your focus and exposure. Use the focus settings we talked about. Get your exposure under control. But I can't talk enough about the power of the Z9. You know, 46 megapixels, 20 frames per second, the ability to capture amazing light, amazing motion, the power of the image. You know, and all of these Z9 images are made with the 400 2.8 and with or without the 1.4 converter, because it's got the built-in teleconverter. And honestly, I can't tell which is which. A couple of them I remember because I remember flipping the converter on or pulling the converter off, but the images are phenomenal. And these are all shot at f2.8 or 4 because that's the look that I want. That's the look that I love. I don't like f8 where you can see, I want the water to go away. I want the clouds behind the pelicans to disappear. I want to focus on my subject. I want the kingfisher to pop out from the grass. And the only way you, and this is, I know this is with the 1.4, this is, 400 plus the 1.4 on the Z lens. It's amazing. And it's tack sharp. I could make 40 by 60 enlargement from this, no problem. The crown crane, awesome. You can see every pin feather on his neck if you want. One of my favorite pictures from the trip, the zebra. This is 400, 2.8, 2.8. I will tell you that the zebras, the Z9 had trouble focusing on the zebras. It couldn't decide where the face was. So whenever I was on zebra, I had to turn animal focus off and manually put the focus dot where I wanted because the stripes were just confusing the animal. Now, Canon just brought in horse detect to their new R6-2, and it says it'll work for zebras. I can't wait to try it to see how whether it works on a zebra. But look at this, isn't this a phenomenal image?
Mark, the zebra, looking at it here and looking at it when we have it mounted on the wall, the consulate just looks phenomenal.
It's phenomenal, amazing. Isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is 24 by 36 on the wall as well, as is the elephant.
Yes.
Just, Karen, it takes me back. I want to go.
I know. If I was rich, I would go every year. I can tell you right now. So
you just need to get a rich boyfriend, Karen.
Yeah. Get rid of my husband. Mark, will you let the Z7ii go to 25,000 ISO?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I will. I do all the time. It's just that on this trip, I wasn't using the Z9, I mean the Z7 for those kinds of pictures.
Right. And then Brian wants to know, how do you print the large images? And that's with Jeff at your lab, right?
Absolutely. Jeff does all the printing. He made beautiful prints.
Yeah, Craig said the Canon R5 had trouble with the zebras as well.
Yeah. Oh, good. See, yeah. And I think that, because they're trying for in the intelligence and they just can't get every case. And I just love this image. Isn't this great? Being able to track the focus, have the focus track your subject is just amazing. And the way you do it, so here I remember it distinctly. I was using the wide area large autofocus square. It couldn't tell what to do here. I had to move the square. It hit on the elephant. It briefly went for focus on the trunk and then recognized the eye. And you see the camera, the focus dots kind of bounce around and then boom, it locked on the eyes. And once it locked on the eyes, it was done, right? Same thing here, right? Here, it just went right to the eyes. It was great. But here I did wide area small. So it's a small bounding box and I had to keep the box on the baby elephant. And I didn't move the box, I moved my camera as the elephants moved across. Yep. This one, the lions, the male, female lions, they were moving around a lot. And the autofocus just picked up right where it was supposed to. It was just so powerful and so great.
I remember this, Mark, that time. And I remember turning around, looking at you in the other car going, that animal eye focus is amazing.
Yes, isn't it great?
Yeah.
And it switched. Remember how it would switch back and forth between them depending on which one had their eyes open?
Yes.
It was great.
So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one, I had to switch to wide area small, pointed down at the baby because it wanted to focus. It saw the auntie. So mom is on the right. That's mom's tail. It wanted to focus on the auntie in the back, but I wanted on the baby. This was on the second. Go ahead, Maurice.
No, I was going to say the images are so stunning. The questions come up and asking, were you really outside or in the Toyota taking those images?
Yeah.
Were you at eye level? Because they look as if you're at eye level, but that's the beauty of the vehicles that we have. It allows you to at eye level. Right.
And, using a 400 lens, I'm positioning the driver, we're, 10, 12 meters away from the lions, which is a safe distance where you want to be so you're not disturbing them. But that gives you that low angle of view look from the low window.
Absolutely. Instead of using the terraced vehicles that other people have.
The terraced vehicles are horrible. Yeah, so this one was great. The camera had a hard time on this until she sat up like that. And then the face focus just locked right in. It was amazing. And this is what 2.8 aperture gives you guys. This is what it gives you. This is why I spend the $14,000 and I carry a 6-pound lens, because this is the look I want. We sat there for 45 minutes with these hippos, watching and smelling them grunt around, waiting for that guy to open his mouth like that. It was phenomenal. And the eye tracking focus found him. I couldn't do it fast enough. Yeah, even an ugly animal like a hyena with their baby. Yeah, amazing stuff, gang. And this is all from one safari, one trip, using the Nikon Z system. I love it. So amazing. And the power of what we were able to capture.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I didn't see that one. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mark, if you had the choice now, would you take the 600 versus the 400 lens?
Well, for safari, maybe, but I don't just do safari. I still do sports. So that's where 400 2.8 is really, I want the 2.8 aperture, Karen. So I'm going to stay with the 400 2.8. I'm not going to get a 600 f4. But if I was just a hardcore animal and bird photographer, I might consider the 600 f4. I love this one.
Yes, it's a great shot.
This is just so gross to me, but I think it's so cool. And this is one where the eye focus was really confused. I had to put the focus on the face. The camera didn't recognize the buffalo as a animal.
Mark, did you ever shoot your 400 at anything other than f2.8?
I shoot it at f4 sometimes. I probably made 4 pictures at 5.6. This one might have been 5.6 because I wanted to keep the face and the horn in focus.
And then someone says they have the Sigma 150 to 600 on the Z7ii, and it's very heavy.
Yep, that's a very heavy lens. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I just was so happy with the 100 to 400 because it was so light.
It's so lightweight, yes.
Yeah.
And so sharp. The 100 to 400 Nikon lens is going to be and Karen's pictures are amazing, guys.
Yeah, they're
phenomenal.
Sharp. Yeah, I had no issue with that lens. So.
Right, and you had, you did the 100 to 400 with the 1.4 converter.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. So, here f2.8 again. I love this look, and there's no other way to get this look but with a fast lens. So guys, please type into the chat if you've got questions.
Yeah, Mark,
Jim is
how many shooting days? I think someone had a question there. How many shooting days on Safari?
On our support, so Maurice and I try to build usually 8 days on the Kenya Safari, both the Ultimate and the Kenya Safari coming up have 8 days. On Uganda for the Gorilla Trek, you really, I mean, there we do photography other than that, but there's 3 main days. There's the 1 day we go visit the chimps, and then the 2 days we go to the gorillas.
We shot every day though.
Yeah, we shot every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we went, we went to the village, we went here, we went there, you know.
Mark,
What?
are the 100 to 400 lenses readily available?
We got a half dozen of them in today. They'll probably be gone by Saturday. So if you want one, call or come down today, tomorrow.
Yeah, that was from Kathy.
Yeah. Yep. 1.4 converters, you have to get on the waiting list right now. But if you want one, get on the waiting list. We'll have you taken care of in a month or two. Yeah. So why did I get better pictures this trip than any other trip? Speed and accuracy. I was able to shoot quickly. I was able to be more responsive. The focus was phenomenal. Even here on this dusty conditions, the focus was perfect. Shooting with a mirrorless camera, so you see, I see live exposure. I see the focus tracking. You see everything. It allows me to discreetly control where I'm focusing, what I'm focusing on, so I can get the capture of exactly what I want. So here I switched. I started out in portrait mode as the wildebeest were coming down the hill towards us, and then switched quickly to landscape mode and put the converter in or off. I can't remember. Yeah, so I pulled the converter off of the 400. So this is at 560. This is at 400 to get a little bit more space because I wanted that movement. And without the power of the Z9, I never would have had that. I never would have had that, right? I never would have had the ability to get the shadow detail as the wildebeest were crossing the river with the highlights right behind them, because we were shooting almost, remember Karen, we were almost right into the sun on this.
Oh yeah, we were, yeah.
And it would made amazing pictures. It was what made this picture work. But it's tough conditions for the camera. It's tough. It's really hard exposure and focus wise, and it worked. It worked.
Mark, how much cropping do you do in your post when your images? Do you do any cropping at all, or you don't do any cropping?
Very little.
Question came up on that. Okay.
Yeah, you know, I'll crop 10% to clean up a picture a little bit. You know, on this one there was a bush on the right side, so I came in a little bit to get the bush out that I didn't see. But other than that, I don't do much at all. Most of mine are straight out of the camera. I'm doing all my cropping with the lens, composing properly in the camera. So I want you guys to join us on this amazing journey of life and photography. I want you to be part of what we do as we get out and make these amazing pictures and have more fun than's allowed by law. Because we're able today to make pictures that tell a different story, that have a different impact. And I love that. And I love our ability to get out and do something different and have some fun doing it. So thank you very much for coming tonight. If you have questions, we'll answer those questions. Karen, are there any more questions?
Yeah, there's a couple.
Good.
It goes so fast for me. Are you using any filters?
No filters. I don't even bring filters. Well, protective filter on the lens, that's it. No polarizer, no neutral density, there's no time.
And do you remember what the settings were for the wildebeest into the sun?
What were my settings? 4,000th of a second at f4 with ISO 100, ISO auto. Doesn't, so that's the disappointing thing when I give a technical talk, guys. Oh my God, what are your settings? The same setting on the picture before and the same setting on the picture afterwards. Because, you know, I use the high ISO noise reduction in the camera, and then I use Nik Define in post-production. So Karen, you like Topaz better than Nik?
Yes.
Is it less noisy? Is it sharper? Why do you like Topaz better than Nik?
I think it's less noisy.
Okay.
You get 4 options. You can
Right.
adjust everything. You can
Oh,
adjust
wow.
the amount of sharpness. You can adjust the amount of denoise. I like the program. If
Okay.
you want to test it out, they do free trials. I think you can do.
Yeah,
like
I haven't played with Topaz in a couple of years. I guess I need to do that again.
Yeah, the Topaz Sharpen, it'll work pretty good. Like if you have a bird that's a little out of focus, it'll work, but you have to be really careful because it over sharpens and then it looks.
Oh yeah, all the automatic sharpening stuff over sharpens.
So when I do use the sharpening, then when I go back to Lightroom, I take the detail slider down to compensate for that.
Okay, I have high ISO noise reduction on either normal or auto in the camera. I can't remember. So I saw questions. I can see them flashing, but I can't read them. Karen, what's going on there?
Someone said the new integrated Topaz Photo AI that does noise sharpen and enlarge all in one is great.
I generally won't like that because it's going to change the characteristics of my image in a way that I won't like.
But
I saw something from Peggy asked about the Nikon classes.
I didn't see that one.
Okay. I didn't see.
Oh wait, I did see it.
There was a question mark on if you should JPEG or RAW.
RAW only.
Settings.
Yeah, Peggy wanted to know, do you need to sign up?
Karen, you know I'm always raw, baby, right?
Yes. Anyway, Peggy said for the Z9 classes, do you need to sign up for each one individually?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
That you have to sign up for them individually, and those are Nikon classes, so they are not recorded.
And did you put out the information on those?
Yep, they're on the website at creativephotoacademy.com under events. If you're on the Pulse Photo email newsletter list, you should have received an email about that. If you go to the Nikon website, look for events, you'll see them listed there as well.
And Ralph said in-camera noise reduction doesn't do anything for the RAW, correct?
If you're using Nikon Capture NX, Studio NX, it does.
Okay. Do you see anything else there, Maurice?
No. Actually, the rest is just talking about the use of noise application and software. Yeah, no.
All right, gang. Thank you, Eric. Did I answer all your questions, Eric? I mean, you seem to want technical answers. So, all right, gang. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was my pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm so happy to have spent the time with you, to get you inspired, to make better pictures. Hopefully, consider Pulse Photo for all of your camera purchases. We want to be the best camera store in the whole world. You know, we're trying to be your local camera store no matter where you are. If you have questions, call me, write to my crew. If you have questions about going to Africa with us, or you want to make your own trip, right there, Maurice is the best guy to do the whole Africa thing I have ever done with. That's why we've been working together for so long, and we continue to work together. For those of you in LA, tomorrow from 2 to 7, Friday and Saturday 2 to 7, Maurice and I will be at the Kenyan Consulate, 3550 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 1900 in Los Angeles. For those of you who are Canon folks, Stephanie and Cassie from Canon will be here tomorrow. They've got some amazing specials. For those of you who are Nikon folks, Nikon rebates are going down on Sunday. So if you want to buy a Nikon camera lens today or tomorrow, Friday or Saturday is the time to do it. Then the rebates are kind of going dark, and then we'll have different rebates coming back the end of the month. Probably not better than what we have now, gang. So if you want to jump, now's the time to jump. Any questions from anybody?
No, no questions, Mark. Just applause and people saying thank you and Swahili
All
for
right.
sawa sawa.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Karen, thank you for jumping in. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
No
Maurice. I'll
problem.
see you
Thank you,
tomorrow.
everyone. We'll see you
I'll
tomorrow.
be there
And
I'll be
thanks,
there
everyone.
right about 2 tomorrow. So, and we'll
Perfect.
hang up those extra pictures.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Night.
you.
Good night. Bye.